Hello everyone, welcome to the Cyber Weekly. The Cyber Weekly is a podcast which talks about cybersecurity with me, Deogratius Okello, and Josephine Olok. Now there's also another and I have to edit things, and Angella.
Yes.
Yes, so today we welcome Denis. But before we continue, Angella, do you have anything to say?
Hi, everyone. Denis, welcome. Welcome to our podcast. Can't wait to get you more about you.
Yeah, so a quick rundown of, since I'm no longer the rookie, Angella is now the one to read the profiles. I'm very happy.
Yes. So today's guest is Denis Bazaliva, who has had a very illustrious career. Denis is a seasoned software engineer with an extensive experience in various areas of information technology. He holds a bachelor's degree in information technology from Makerere University and 2 master's degrees, one in software engineering and another in cybersecurity from the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. With over 10 years experience, professional experience, Denis has been an expert in cybersecurity, software design and analysis, and his skill sets include software development, ICT management, and cloud computing. Maybe Denis should tell us how he would define himself. How would he introduce himself with such a heavy CV? I wonder what would follow after.
I wouldn't say it's such a heavy CV, but yeah, some of the points highlighted are actually true, and they speak about myself. Yes, I do hold over like 12 years of experience in the ICT field. That's 12 years on my belt. And then maybe one of the things I'll highlight is I'm a CEO and a founder of an ICT cybersecurity consulting company called the ICT Web. It's based out of St. Paul in Minnesota in the USA, where we do anything cyber related, forensics audits, penetration testing, and ethical hacking. In terms of the security aspect of things, I'm also an ethical hacker. Yes, I do it for the good purposes. We call it the blue team. I'm on the blue team.
All right.
So, yeah, but yeah, yes, I've been in the field for over 12 years. Started off with hardware. I dived into networks, and then systems administration, and then now into cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is more like a playground whereby if you have the strength of, like, for example, networking and systems, then it puts you at a very good front, like when you're doing your work, because then you have the solid foundation to execute your jobs. So that's why I say I've been in the field quite a lot, doing different aspects. And right now, cybersecurity is the hot cake, and I'm there, like, fully.
That's true. How company?
What's that?
How old is your company?
My company is 5 years old.
All right. Well done.
Yes. Thank you.
At least I'm older than your company for now. So, what does your role at Infinite Campus entail?
The role entails making sure the cloud infrastructure is secure and all the systems are uptime. We have something called a central document depository. I don't want to give details about what the company does, but it's a database that has, like, student records, right? Students, parents, and law enforcement and all that. So making sure the system is accessible and uptime is one of the key roles. Of course, it comes with making sure, like, the systems administration part is in there, but also making sure the systems are secure, because it has a lot of end users. Like, for example, students use it, parents use it, teachers use it, social workers use it, counselors use it, and even law enforcement. Like, if a student commits a crime and they have to dig for some information, they can go to that repository and access that information, of course, with the right permissions and proper channels. It's not like it's an open database that everyone can access. So it comes with a lot of security behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a lot of sensitive data.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually, I forgot, I was just speaking about the student information, but there is more sensitive data, like, for example, about the health record.
Mm-hmm.
In the USA, we have something called HIPAA. It's really, really huge. The Health Information Act, it's really huge. Like, student health records or information shouldn't be flying around, If it ever goes out, then whichever company leaked that information will be in very, very, very big trouble. At least for the USA, that I know for sure. Yeah.
Also for Uganda, we have data protection laws.
Yeah, we have protection laws, but sometimes I'm one of those people who likes to eat some street food. Mm. And sometimes when I'm unwrapping, like, for example, I've just bought like a snack, and then I realize there's a medical record of someone at the back. Many people do not realize it, but maybe my curiosity, like my mind, drives me into like having that extra focus, because you can see the patient information, what they're suffering from, their phone number, and all that. It's something that I see, but I've never really commented about it. But it happens, at least in Uganda. I've seen it.
Medical record, patient records, people use them to wrap cassava.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about now. So it's not like I'm making up something.
So when it comes to certifications or degrees, what do you think is more important, and how if someone is starting up, what do you suggest for someone to actually do?
Okay, I would say over and over again, certifications over a degree is my preference, because certifications come with it's like you can't pass a certification exam if you don't know really what you're doing. Okay? Exactly. So if when you have a certification, even your interview changes. The language changes with the people who are interviewing, because you know exactly what you're doing, and maybe you haven't implemented it, but when you put out in the field to execute what exactly you're certified in, then you're able to do it. Degrees, yes, they are okay. But if you realize when you're doing like most degrees, you have a lot of information to consume over a less period of time. And sometimes, depending on the institution, sometimes there is less practicals running when you're doing that kind of work. So you tend to feed yourself into the theory side of things compared to certifications. Certifications are theory, but they are designed in a way that they are more practical. They are real. So I'll just summarize it and say I'll prefer certification over a degree. And if you look at I'll use my example as my portfolio. I've done a bunch of certification exams to grasp an understanding of the work that I'm going to do. For example, I did the CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Associate. Yes, I did that sometime, and I gained a solid understanding of how networks work, like at least on the Cisco side of things. Protocols don't change. If you know the basics of networking, the same applies to Juniper. It's the same applies to Palo Alto, like in terms of firewalls and all that. The same applies to Aruba and all that. I was curious about cloud computing, and when the noise had just started, I did a certification in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. It's kind of the same as AWS by Amazon, because the theory behind how things are done is the same. It's the implementation that actually changes, but the logic is the same. The other is Linux. Most people fear Linux. Oh, I want to operate on a Windows system. I challenged myself. I wanted to know how the Linux operating system, actually, how things are done in Linux. So I did that. And each of those had a goal behind. I wanted to grasp a solid understanding of everything that happens in the back end compared to how you read it in a degree. For example, in a degree, they may tell you the type of operating system, it's Linux, examples, say Ubuntu operating system, and they stop at that. But now in a certification exam, it will be more like, hey, this is the Ubuntu operating system. How do you navigate the directory structure? If you want to open up an application, if you want to download something in Ubuntu, how do you do it? Now, a certification gives you that power versus the theory that you get when, for example, you're doing your degree.
That's true. You learn doing, and that's the.
Yes.
So, Angela, the next question, in your experience, we're alternating.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your experience, what are the common misconceptions about the role of system administrators in cybersecurity? And how have you learned to leverage your expertise in organizations that you have worked under in order to improve the security posture?
Okay. One of the misconceptions about the role of a systems administrator in cybersecurity is that many people think that systems administrator's role is limited to managing infrastructure and systems, but in actual sense, systems administrators play a crucial role in maintaining the security of an organization's IT environment, because as you're building the systems, for example, if you as a systems administrator, if you're deploying a server, you want to make sure you're following the best security practices. You're going to improve, put in place security controls. And then, of course, you're going to monitor your environment, like the servers you've deployed in your environment. So much as it's infrastructure that is being implemented, but your ability to execute some of those security controls and put them in place is what stands out and relates to cybersecurity, So then to address this misconception and improve the security, for most organizations where I've worked as a systems administrator, I've come up with things like implementing security policies and procedures. When you're deploying, for example, servers, I'll use an example in a data center and all that. You want to implement security policies and procedures, When you do that, you're enforcing cybersecurity. And now you've moved away from just this misconception of, he's a systems administrator, and you're actually doing security work. You're supporting the security team to do some of their work. And then security training, I'll give an example. Systems administrators usually implement things like Radius or TACACs, for people to log on to Active Directory, When you log on, you as the panelist, when you log on to your computer, usually it asks you for a username and password, right? And in an organization, that usually works with Active Directory, So a systems administrator is going to enforce security by actually making sure before you access, you authenticate with the server, which is like a TACACs server, And when you do that, they've actually enforced what? The cybersecurity. Now, in terms of training, using this same example, systems administrators will say session and say, for you to log in onto maybe this server or this application, you log in this way. And this is the right way to do it, So doing that kind of training is still raising awareness about cybersecurity. Then vulnerability management. I've also, in where I've worked, I've also established processes for regularly assessing and mitigating vulnerabilities in IT systems, including patching management, vulnerability scanning, and penetration testing, Now, as a systems administrator, you ever look like, in terms of security at least, right? You ever working with industrial players, like looking out for updates and all that, right? On your computer, like a normal user, you usually get prompts of like, your computer needs an update, right? Whenever that update works, when it's deployed, a systems administrator is going to look at the update and digest it. If I deploy this update on the server, how will it break anything? And how safe is it? Is it secure and all that? When they do that deep dive and look at the security aspect of things, they are actually doing the cybersecurity, whatever. They're implementing cybersecurity measures. And the actual deployment of like, for example, the security patch, you're patching, you're covering a hole, Maybe in the previous version that was running on the server, there was a vulnerability that was identified, right? And now you have an opportunity to fix it, and that's by patching a server. So vendors like Microsoft will release a patch, and the system administrator will implement it. So that's another way of doing cybersecurity. Then incident reporting and planning. Basically, as a systems administrator, in case your systems go down, how do you respond to such incidences? Something like that. And then continuous monitoring and improvement. You have your servers, you're monitoring them for anything that is fishy, When you see a security loophole, report it to the security team and work together to fix it. That's how you do cyber security in your organization as a systems administrator. So it pushes you away from just being a systems administrator to actually being a security engineer.
Yes.
Because you're actually playing with the actual systems.
Yes. Yeah. And to add, you see, also as a system administrator, you see how many people are logged onto the system to see. Sometimes people would share passwords and then you wouldn't know if someone is being impersonated. And as a system administrator, you ensure that there's only one instance of a user at a given time. That's very paramount right now, because in Uganda we have the Computer Misuse Act, where people can be what's it called? What's the law term? When they can be held accountable for this user information, because people will just share their username and password to anyone to maybe another person with their job role, but they don't know the amount of vulnerability that will lead to, right? So as a system administrator, you first of all train people on the safety of their passwords and just not sharing them. And in case they do, you also let them know they can be held accountable. Because stipulate that people are not, it's not allowed for you to share your username and password. And then you could be able to hold people accountable to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's called training people about password hygiene.
Yes. People will think simple thing, but it can really lead to a lot of fraud. So it's better to stay vigilant.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, Angela is speaking from experience.
Yes.
Yeah, she's also in the realm of a system admin, so that is why she's very passionate about the role. Anyways, so the next thing is with the rise of remote work, What are some of the biggest challenges you have faced in maintaining network security, and what strategies have you used to overcome these challenges?
That is a very good question. And I'll start it with an analogy that I usually go by as a security guy. I usually say, never trust, always verify, right?
Yes.
Never trust, always verify. That thing's like, it's at the back of my mind. So basically, you're not taking things for granted. And one of the biggest factors is making sure the endpoints are safe. Because by endpoints, it means some people work using their phone, and then considering they are working remotely, probably they are connected onto a home network, and maybe that network was this, like someone, a sales engineer came and sold a solution, right? I'll give an example of maybe, let me see, Xfinity or Comcast in the USA, or maybe Rock Telecom, or I don't know if it's okay to mention names, but like I've just used an example. But like an internet service provider, sales engineer comes and sells your package, they implement the network. Most of the people who use these networks really don't know how it was done. All they want to know is, can you share the username and password, or the password of the Wi-Fi, and that's it, right? Now, in terms of security, people never pay attention on how it was done and all that. So, and this is the same network that someone is going to use to connect onto an office network work, right? And they're using a device that is also another factor that has come into play. So you're dealing with two endpoints, the network at the endpoint and the actual device that is being used to work, right? So that is one of the biggest challenges of remote work. Yeah. Now, some of the things, strategies that are designed around making sure like security is beefed up is one, and this is the most common, is making sure that before employees connect onto the company network, at least they have some sort of a VPN tunnel, VPN encrypts the data as it's being sent, So that enforces some degree of what? Some degree of security, brings up some degree of security, because someone is going to log onto the network, and that network is actually secure to the office network, right? Then the other thing is, security is an interplay of many things. You don't use only one security policy or mechanism to and then get comfortable and say everything is okay. Other things is that, okay, you've logged on to the VPN and you've established a secure connection to the corporate network, Then when you're logging on to the actual systems, production systems at your work environment, what is that additional layer of security? That's when you bring in things like the multi-factor authentication, like two-factor authentication, either with like there's two things usually involved, like maybe biometric authentication, or you've heard of the Google Authenticator, you've heard of Okta Verify. All those are nice tools that many people use out there to connect on to log onto the actual systems, So in case there was a problem, maybe there is a man in the middle attack. It usually, sometimes it happens, right? Someone connects onto the home network and they connect onto the corporate network, and the man in the middle attack happens whereby someone spoofs traffic,
Yes.
And then they get onto the actual production network. So if they get onto the production network, are they actually able to access the server resources and the sensitive systems in your production environment? That's when that extra layer of maybe the two-factor authentication comes in, because then it blocks them. You're on the network, but maybe the monitoring team is going to identify that we have a rogue person on the network and stop you from there, But opening up the tunnel and whereby someone, as long as someone is accessing the network, they are able to actually log on to production systems and all that. I don't think that is right. So that's why you need to add in that extra layer of security. And then the other thing is, as the cyber team or the monitoring team, proactive monitoring of the network is really crucial. You know, people are working from home. You don't know their habits. You know, it's up to you to put in those safeguards and really monitor the network for any anomalies and try to address them with the security team in real time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like, first of all, beefing up the human firewall itself is the first step, because you'll be shocked. You would think people know these things, but then someone will just maybe log on a public Wi-Fi to log into work, you know. So if you first train them and having fast connections, and then we'll just lessen all these incidences.
Yeah. And by the way, the biggest threat in security is, I would say it's the human being. We also, because you can have the best firewall in the world, you can have the best physical security at a server room and all that, but the biggest threat is the human being. You know,
Access.
that's why you have to keep training and never get tired of training about cyber threats and what they're doing and how to mitigate them. So,
yes, that's true. Okay, so
Josephine, are you in position to ask the next question, or can you walk us through?
Yeah. Hi again. So sorry about the late joining. Yeah. I was enjoying the last conversation as I listened, and I was hoping to stay hidden, but there you spotted me, I see. Anyway, so Dennis, can you walk us through a memorable incident that you managed as a system admin in response to a cybersecurity incident? What are the lessons you learned and in your experience? What are the best practices you consider in incident response planning?
okay. I hope it's okay. I won't mention company names and all that, but
yeah, that's fine.
one of the companies that I've worked at, we have something called the Super Bowl. I'm sure everyone knows. Well, most everyone knows. If you follow American football, we have the Super Bowl, and it's a chill weekend. People are enjoying themselves. They're watching with their families, and football is going on. So everyone is buried into that whole. It's like the World Cup, the soccer World Cup, right? To the men who enjoy soccer, it's like they do not want to be disturbed around that time, you know. So it's on a Sunday and Monday morning. So the company that I worked for, we were divided into teams. There's the night team because we have branches in Hawaii, and Hawaii is in a different time zone, right? And we are over here on the interland on the United States, and our time zone is about 8 hours. So not like Ugandan time, right? People are sleeping, then you're awake. So the monitoring team was divided into two. The night shift would support the Hawaii team, and then during the day, the Hawaii team supports like the interland, because now it's dark and they take on something like that. So anyway, on the interland, we're watching football and everyone is, you know, then Monday morning, get to work, and the reception says, we can't access, she first said, we can't access any of the emails. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what happened? Because before a change in shift, the night team has to sort of like we have like a stand up, like what happened. They give a report. and hand over to the day team, right? Something like that. So in the report, nothing like, there was no abnormally found when they were doing their night thing. So it just so happened that when we were about to clock into work, that's when maybe the attack happened. And there was no access to emails. And then there was this big picture on the computer screen demanding for cryptocurrency. And that's when I knew it quickly sunk in. When I looked at the screen, I'm like, oh my God, we've been hit. It's a ransomware attack that had happened. And so one of the things you do in such a scenario, I would say isolate as much as possible. Like do some digging, isolate. Where did this attack come from? Like isolate the network. If it means turning off the devices from the network that are compromised, do it. And then after, clean up the whole process one step at a time. So when that happened, first step was first of all, I isolate the affected system and then do an investigation to see where the breach came from, right?
Yes.
Now, the challenge is that we actually, the questions, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but you ask questions that have led to this. It was a remote worker who had logged into, basically had clicked on a phishing email, and then the attack came from there. But because they're connected via VPN and all that, the threat actors were actually on our network, and then they started shutting down things and, putting the ransomware on our system. So remote work challenges, just like you asked, that's where it came from. Anyway, shut down the system. And then after shutting down the system, we did the investigation about what had happened. And then, of course, when you're faced with such challenges like that, you don't work in isolation under the fear of how did we get hit and all that. You involve different parties and you need the support from your executive at the higher level, right? These people are demanding money. It's not like you're going to pay money. Like, I would advise against paying money for ransomware. There is ways to deal with that, right? But companies have paid money, some of them. So open communication involving the security team, the systems admin, and then the executive. They may not be technical, but you need their support. And also explain to them what the impact is, right?
Yes.
There is no guesswork like, okay, when we do this is what, explain the full extent of the impact that, okay, we can be crippled down. And if it's a sensitive company, for example, like, I'm not going to use names, but you've heard of companies whereby of recent, their planes are having issues, right? So when that happens, then your stock market goes down. That's how some companies are, right? Really, like, you have a breach, your stock market value, just the shares go down and all that. So sensitive environment, open communication with the executive, that impacts, let them be prepared, and also let them work in their executive role to see how the shareholders are not shaken up by what is happening, because they're in position to communicate that you as the technical people, in the meantime, you're doing your work to restore what? Service. Anyway, after the communication and investigating and turning off isolating and turning off some of the devices and all that, then we went back to the nightly builds, the backups. Do some cleaning. Have that extra eye, like, is this backup safe to put back, That is your only safeguard, We were lucky that the environment we're operating in is not more like triggered by financial transactions, because financial transactions is a different ball game, because transactions happen every second. So when you go back, that means you're lacking some sort of audit on some transaction that happened when the attack happened. So, we restored service using some of the backups that we had, and that's how we're able to address some of what the challenges. Yeah. One of the enhanced security measures we implemented at time to enforce security was still again go back to security training. You don't, I'm not an HR person, but you just don't fire people. Give them a chance. They learn.
Yes.
It's a continuous, because even an HR person can make a mistake like that, where they send them a phishing email. Trainings were implemented. And actually the trainings that were implemented were centered towards that same kind of attack. We designed a tool whereby we deliberately would send out phishing emails to our employees and then see who clicks on what? On a link. Once they click on a link, you make it more fun, like, something funny on the screen comes up and like, hey, you're busted, something like that. You make it interactive and creative, and then, but as you're doing that, you're paying attention to the metrics. Like, who is this employee who just clicks on links every time you send them? That's why you concentrate your training. So it's one of the things that we did. And yes, indeed, there was improvement. Indeed, there were employees who kept clicking, like, hey, pay attention, like,
People like win things.
Yeah, people like to win things. Many people they fall for visa scams and all that, and they click and then, something like that. So, yeah, that training happened, and we're able to address that. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, how long did it take for you to recover fully? Just out of curiosity.
We were crippled for 48 hours.
Whoa.
To make sure the cleaning is done and restoration, and we say, okay, we're good to go, about 48 hours.
Okay.
But everything happened because there was clear communication. Like, this is not a one-person problem, it's affecting everyone. We are sorry, but we have to fix it. And we can't fix while, again, you're bringing in more threats, because we don't know what is out there.
Okay. Yeah. Great answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and then lessons learned out of that, please do backups. And do not only do one backup.
Yes.
There's a lot of cloud technologies that have come. I know people are scared about the licensing and ad hoc, like, hey, we want to see our server and see it there. But man, until you get hit, that's when you have to play in the market and maybe back up on Amazon, and maybe also back up on Oracle, HP and all that. So back up as much as you can. You never know when you'll need it. And then employee training, patch management. We usually get updates about patches, and sometimes people ignore those, but they are really crucial. There's a vulnerability database out there in the world. It's free, it's open source. You can always look at vulnerabilities that have been identified, and if you pay attention, like every Tuesday, for example, like this past Tuesday, Microsoft has a day called, like for Windows users, it's called Patch Tuesday. They release their updates only on Tuesday. Yeah, and when you look at people just don't pay attention, but when you look at the breakdown of what they're trying to address, and you relate it to the vulnerability database out there, usually they'll pinpoint and say maybe they usually start with a CVE. We identify this vulnerability, and it does it. So here is the patch to fix it so that you not fall a victim when an attack is launched in relation to that. Then regularly updating your incident response plan. The threats are ever coming up. Guys are becoming smart every day. You have to be smart. You can't be using information of 1996 right now in 2024. It's not going to work. The landscape has changed, you know. People used to use Windows 95, you're using Windows 11. So the same incident response is not going to be the same. The ball game has really changed, and I regularly update that. Then collaboration is key. No man is an island, right? Involve everyone who can help, you know. Maybe you're a security guy and you're exhausted from all this work and you've not paid attention to some of the simplest of things, you know. That communication from the secretary or the reception telling you, I clicked on this email, then this happened. How you digest that information is really helpful. So do not think that this person is just, receptionist, or I'm not undermining a role, but when you're dealing, for example, with the ransomware incident that we had, you know, some organization ignore like this person who maybe cleans the floor, you know, or the reception, but that person would have very vital information, you know. If it was a breach in a server room, maybe that cleaner will be like, I was cleaning and I saw this guy enter the room.
That's
in
true.
case maybe the footage has been deleted off the hard drive and you have no follow-up plan, maybe that person's information will become crucial. So collaboration is really important. And then testing and doing drills. Once in a while, put people in check, right? Put people in check. How those people click on that fake email that you generated? I'm sure most of you are exposed to a tool called Kali Linux. It has a lot of some of those tools that you can use, you know, as a blue team. Like, for example, in this scenario, to further look at who was maybe not paying attention, we put in the fake emails but generated to us. Not that they are going to affect the network, but we just wanted to see where can we focus our attention. Who is this employee who keeps clicking on this and all that? And then also managing, one other final thing is managing vendor relationships, right? Make sure you get that license. That license looks expensive, but when you get hit and you have nowhere to look and you don't have in-house support to address that, and it's only the vendor that can really help you, that's when you realize, oops, we actually need that help. Yeah, I'll summarize it that way. That is my incident.
Okay. I know we've already talked about vulnerabilities. I don't know if we can go through it again. But I think we shall just go into your volunteering law, the role of volunteering. I think Josephine, you can take that.
Yeah, thank you, Dale, and thank you, Dennis, for the very comprehensive answer. Some great tips there. But you also volunteer in a number of organizations. How has your knowledge and experience helped to impact the communities that you have supported?
Okay, one of well, I didn't mention this, but maybe to answer this, I'll point out one of the biggest organizations of Africans in the diaspora, specifically Ugandans. There is an organization called the Ugandan North American Association. It's called UNA. They're director of IT and communications. And it's an organization with 1,000 plus Ugandans in North America. And in my volunteer role as a director, who was entrusted for the past 4 years, one of the things that I did or I've done to improve the organization is making sure it's digitized, right? Now we have a membership system where people, it's a non-profit, but when UNA has things like the Uganda North American Convention, like people to organize that, because it's the money comes from the membership, right? So
Okay.
people are able to purchase tickets to go and attend the convention, right?
Yes.
Previously it was there, but there was a lot of misuse by the time I came into office. But now we have proper structures in place. Like someone, even in Uganda, someone can pay and just go to the embassy and process their visa and go and attend the convention, right? Now that has come with us having a database. Now from that database, we have built a mailing list. You don't have to write an email and then CC 1,000 people. No one has that time. You just get the mailing list, put it in like an Excel sheet and upload it to, there is mailing campaigns like Constant Contact. There is another one called MailChimp. You just upload it there, then just write one email and then blast it. More like bulk SMS, which used to be back in the day, but now this is a mailing list, and then send it out to whatever communication, you send it out to the whole organization, you know. That comes with making sure cybersecurity is enforced. Part-time, I design websites, so I designed the UNA website. I had to enforce security in the background because credit card information is in there. When someone is they're making a purchase, they put in their credit card information and their home address and their first and last name. So to capture that information and keep it safe, very crucial. Because if there is any sort of breach, then it's too bad. So yeah, web development, building a database, and then building a mailing list is where the organization, I would say, has benefited from my role as the Director of Communications and IT. Plus many other small organizations that I've served with my IT expertise.
So yeah, one-stop shop, everything.
That's a huge contribution.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, it's the Josephine train the whole way. So Josephine, the next question.
I feel you're being unfair because I came late.
In old fashion.
Oh dear. Okay. So Denis, you've got a wonderful career path and all that. Do you have any advice for our listeners, for anyone who wants to follow your path? What can they do better? What words of wisdom can you impart on them?
Okay, I usually tell people, if you do not learn something new every day, you're cheating yourself. And this is even to you guys. You can take it and interpret it as you wish, but that's what I usually tell people. The biggest advice besides that is invest in yourself. Why I say invest in yourself, yes, you may get a push, but for example, I usually give an example to people and tell them, before you buy that iPhone and go on the streets of, let me say, streets of Kampala or the streets of Minneapolis, St. Paul, or whatever, and you show off the latest iPhone. By investing in yourself, I usually give an example. I invested in myself by buying a laptop that was super, like it had the specifications that I wanted to do my work. Now on that laptop that laptop is my playground. I virtualize, like I have 6 virtual machines running on that laptop, right? So yes. if I see any sort of like security vulnerability or something that is out there that is being talked about, I usually use my playground, virtualize it in my environment, and then after that, it doesn't cost a thing. You just delete the virtual machine, and that's how you learn. Invest in yourself. I would have bought an iPhone or the latest car or whatever, but I invested in that machine, and it pays off. There is nothing as good as you go to an institution and they are facing a challenge and you're already ahead of the curve. You know even the solution because you've replayed it on a virtual machine. So invest in yourself. It's good. For someone who wants to be in the career or someone who is already in the career and they want to move forward, invest in yourself.
Wow, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation, and we appreciate that advice. I think that's something that we should take on board, really. So it's been a great conversation. I know you said you had something urgent, but do you have any parting shots? Anything that you want our listeners to know? Anything?
I would say that we live in a world whereby you can't avoid cybersecurity. If you get an opportunity to learn how the cyber world works, I'll go back to the same. Invest in it and learn it. Don't just be comfortable in your role. Spread your wings, you'll fly. Learn an extra piece of skill set, right? Learn that extra, like, I like using my examples. Like when you give me a challenge, I'm not gonna fail. I've done cyber, I've done systems administration. Networks has been the core. If I tell you I do, I do graphics and animations, you'll not believe it, but I do it. My other extra skill set, which is a hobby, is I also play music. I'm a DJ. I do that part-time. It's a skill set. There is nothing as sweet as getting paid to have fun.
What's a DJ?
The DJ name comes from the internet. It's DJ Broadband.
Oh, wow.
And I have actually a website, DJ Broadband. So I'm available 24/7, just like the broadband internet. Available 24/7, 99.999 to meet SL. So I'll never disappoint if given the task. So
do you DJ remotely?
That I jokingly talk about, like when what's that?
Do you do DJ remotely? Can you?
During COVID, yes. Online, I used to do that. Okay. We're using a software called OBS to do, for example, like OBS. Thank you for asking even that. OBS, like if you want to start up like a TV, like you want to enhance your YouTube channel and all that, there's OBS. It's a free tool.
Okay.
You can use it, customize it, add graphics, animations, and you have your mini TV out there. It's something that I've played with, and during COVID, I used to DJ remotely. And yeah, I've DJed in 25 out of 51 states of the United States.
Oh, wow.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Monday to Friday, I'm your cyber guy.
Yeah. The side hustles are good though.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Denis. Been nice talking to you. And I'm gonna hand back to Dale. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Denis. So Denis will be. We shall actually include Denis's DJ name, everything in the show notes. So yeah,
for sure. I want to look at that site.
All the links, we shall put them there in the show notes. So Denis, feel free to share everything, including your social media. We shall add it in the show notes for our audience. Other than that, end scene this week, you can check out episode 5, which is with Bernard Arinaitwe, our first guest. So apart from that, see you all in the next episode.